I don't know who's getting through this checkpoint, but it's not your grandpa. The words were spoken low, but loud enough. Marcus Webb, a few yards away, bending down to put his shoes back on, heard them. The speaker was Trevor Kane, the security chief, talking into his radio. Yes, I know there's protocol, but the guy looks like he can't even remember his own name. His eyes are blank. His passport's ancient. He brought metal objects, couldn't explain them. And on top of that, Trevor paused, glanced at Marcus, then lowered his voice even further. I think he's senile. Really. I think someone dropped him off here and forgot about him. A voice crackled back over the radio. Trevor grunted. Okay, but if there's a security risk, it's my job. I need to detain him. Marcus finished tying his shoelace. He straightened slowly. His knees creaked, the ache of age. But his face was calm, because these words, these humiliations, these judgments, weren't new. He'd heard them his entire life. He'd had to prove himself, and every single time, he had. Today would be no different. The Terminal B security checkpoint at Washington Dulles International Airport was buzzing with the midday Tuesday rush. Business executives heading to meetings, families leaving for vacation, students hurrying with backpacks, all trying to funnel through the same bottleneck. X-ray machines hummed, metal detectors beeped, and TSA agents barked monotonous instructions. Trevor Kane loved this chaos. It gave him power. He was 28 years old and the highest-ranking security officer on this shift. His gray uniform was crisply pressed, every surface of his badge gleaming. His hair was military short, his posture straight and proud. He saw himself as a protector, the last line of defense for American airspace. And today, this old man, this Marcus Webb, had pinged his radar. When Marcus reached for his plastic bin, Trevor lunged forward. Hold on a moment, sir. You don't have permission to leave yet. The words sounded polite, but the tone wasn't. The tone was cold, distant, and expected obedience. Marcus stopped. His hands rested on the edge of the bin, motionless. Is there a problem? Yes, there's a problem. Trevor pointed to two small metal objects in the bin. They weren't medals or badges, just two small, ordinary metal pieces. One was flat and round, the other irregularly shaped, as if torn from something larger. What are these? Marcus looked at the objects. For a moment, something flickered in his eyes. A memory, a pain, a loss. But it passed so quickly Trevor didn't notice. Personal items. Personal items isn't a sufficient explanation, sir. Trevor picked up one of the objects, turning it between his fingers. What does this do? Is it part of a weapon? A tool? Why are you carrying it? Marcus's voice was calm, almost a whisper. Reminders. Just reminders. Reminders. Trevor repeated the word as if it were a foreign language. Then he laughed, short, mocking. Behind him, two young officers, Ashley and Jared, exchanged glances and smirked. Reminders. Got it. Maybe to remind you to take your pills, right? Several people in line shifted uncomfortably. A businesswoman, clutching her laptop tightly, checked her watch. A father, holding his young daughter's hand, watched from the front of the line. Everyone was waiting. Everyone was watching this old man and the young security officer detaining him. Marcus said nothing. He just looked into Trevor's eyes. His eyes were pale blue, calm, with something deep inside, a weight, a story. Trevor didn't see that weight. He couldn't. Because all he saw was an old man, weak, slow, lost, a problem. Trevor tossed the metal pieces back into the bin. The sound they made was sharp and disrespectful. Look, sir, my job is to keep this facility secure, and frankly, you look like a security risk. Ashley stepped forward, picking up a security protocol sheet. Sir, if you can't explain these metal objects, we'll have to confiscate them. Airport regulations. Marcus looked at Ashley. She was young, maybe 25, with genuine seriousness on her face. She was just doing her job, but Trevor was different. Trevor was enjoying this. Also, Trevor continued, raising his voice so everyone in line could hear, your passport, this is from 1987. That's almost 40 years ago. 1988. Marcus corrected, his voice still calm. Whatever, Trevor grunted. This passport is a museum piece. And look at the photo. Is this really you? Because the guy in that photo, he looks solid, but you... He didn't finish the sentence, but the implication was clear. Several people in line were now openly uncomfortable. A young woman playing with her phone was quietly recording. A middle-aged man stepped forward. Hey, man, maybe you could be a little respectful. The guy's just trying to catch his flight. Trevor turned, sizing up the man. Sir, please step back. This is a security matter. It's better if you don't interfere. The middle-aged man raised his hands, backing away, but the expression on his face was clear. This is wrong. Marcus tried to pick up his bin. Can I leave my items and go through? I'm going to miss my flight. No, you can't. Trevor pulled the bin away, out of Marcus's reach. You're not going anywhere. You'll wait here until a senior officer arrives. Maybe we need to put you through a full evaluation. Medical evaluation. Sometimes elderly people get confused and wander into airport terminals. Maybe that's what you are. It was the peak of degradation. Inhumane, cruel, and public. A muscle twitched in Marcus's face. For the first time, his calm cracked. But it wasn't anger. It was sadness. Deep, silent sadness. But he didn't stay silent, because if he had, Trevor would have won. Young man, Marcus said, his voice now slightly harder. I'm not confused. I know where I am. I know who I am. And I know you're just doing your job. But let me tell you something. Respect doesn't come with a uniform. It's earned. And right now, you're losing it. Trevor's face flushed. The words had hit their mark. Let me pause here to ask you something. Have you ever witnessed someone abuse their authority? Have you ever judged someone based on their appearance, only to later learn their true story? Share your experiences in the comments. Because what happens next, when Marcus's true identity is revealed, Trevor and the entire terminal are about to be shocked. But first, let's see how the truth comes to light. Far beyond the checkpoint, near the terminal windows, by the edge of a small food stand, a man stood watching the entire scene. His name was James Caldwell. He was in civilian clothes, jeans, a navy jacket, a simple polo shirt. He was 52 years old, his hair graying, his face etched with experience. But what he carried wasn't visible. Under his chest, on his belt clip, was a Federal Air Marshal badge. He was a Federal Air Marshal on active duty today, trained to detect any threat within this terminal. Now, setting down his coffee cup on the table, he tensed. What he was witnessing wasn't a threat. It was an injustice. James walked toward the security checkpoint. His steps were deliberate, but not rushed. He pulled out his radio, speaking low. Command, this is Marshal Caldwell. I'm monitoring a situation in Terminal B. No intervention needed yet, but I'm watching. A voice crackled back. Understood, Marshal. What's your status? TSA officer is detaining an elderly passenger. Situation looks tense. I'm approaching. James paused. He still couldn't see Marcus's face clearly, but something, a feeling, an instinct, made him hesitate. At that moment, the young woman in line, still recording on her phone, raised her voice. You're not really going to do this, are you? This man hasn't done anything to you. Trevor turned. Ma'am, final warning. Step back or I'll flag you as a security threat, too. Security threat? The woman was incredulous. He's a grandfather. He's just standing there. Ashley intervened, raising her hands soothingly. Everyone please stay calm. Trevor, maybe nothing, Trevor snapped. Are you taking his side too, Ashley? This man is suspicious. Protocol is clear. James Caldwell had now fully approached the scene. He could see Marcus's profile, and the moment he saw it, the world stopped. That face, that posture, that calm. James had seen this before, years ago, at a training seminar during a presentation on Air Force history. On one of the slides was an old photograph, a young pilot standing in front of his wrecked aircraft, his face covered in mud, but his eyes, those eyes, unextinguished. He remembered the caption below the photo. Captain Marcus Webb, 1971, Laos border. Survived 48 hours behind enemy lines, longest solo escape and evasion operation. James's heart raced. He immediately reached for his radio. Command, urgent. Send a senior officer to Terminal B now and patch me through to the TSA supervisor. Marshal, what's the threat level? No threat, James replied quickly, but a very serious mistake is being made here. Immediate intervention required. Trevor was about to grab Marcus's arm. All right, Grandpa, that's enough. You're coming with me to a private room. Full screening. Marcus didn't move. He just stared, those blue eyes now piercing straight through Trevor. Young man, do not touch my arm. The voice had changed. It was no longer an old, shaky voice. It was a command voice, authority. Trevor's hand froze in midair. At that moment, cutting through the crowd, James Caldwell stepped forward. Security! Everyone step back! Trevor turned, confused. Who are you? James pulled out his badge, the gleaming gold Federal Air Marshal badge. Trevor's eyes widened. Ashley and Jared immediately snapped to attention. The entire line went silent. Federal Air Marshal Caldwell, and you are currently making a very big mistake. Trevor stammered. I was just... Protocol. That man. Do you know who that man is? James's voice was ice. He turned to Marcus, deep respect in his eyes. Sir, are you Captain Marcus Webb? Marcus slowly nodded. I used to be captain. Now I'm just Marcus. James's breath caught. Then, right there, in front of dozens of people in the terminal, Federal Air Marshal James Caldwell brought his heels together and gave Marcus Webb the sharpest, most respectful salute of his career. The airport completely stopped. Trevor's mouth hung open. Ashley and Jared stood frozen in shock. People in line began whispering. James lowered his salute but kept his posture, speaking now, not just to Trevor, but to everyone. This man, this old grandpa you've been mocking, is Captain Marcus Anthony Webb. He served in the Air Force from 1968 to 1975. He was an F-4 Phantom pilot. In 1971, over the Laos border, his aircraft was hit by enemy fire. His co-pilot was killed instantly. Marcus, wounded and alone, parachuted into enemy territory. James paused, taking a breath. His eyes were misting. For 48 hours, he evaded enemy patrols. He was injured, hungry, and thirsty. But he kept going, because he was trained to survive. And on the third day, by a riverbank, he managed to signal a rescue helicopter. When they pulled him out, he'd lost 15 kilograms, had 3 bullet wounds, and burns over 40% of his body. The crowd listened in silence. Some had tears forming in their eyes. This man, James continued, his voice now trembling, holds the Silver Star, the Distinguished Flying Cross, and the Purple Heart, but he never wore them, because he was a silent hero. He did his duty, he came home, and he lived quietly, with honor. James turned to Trevor. And you, young man, called him senile. You called him a security risk. You humiliated him. Trevor's face had turned ashen. His hands were shaking. I didn't know. You should have known. James's voice was now angry. Your job isn't just to enforce rules. It's to see people, to understand respect. You confuse the power a uniform gives you with real authority. And today, in front of everyone in this terminal, you failed. James turned to his radio. Command, has the Terminal B supervisor arrived? A voice came back. Marshal, Supervisor Sharon Mitchell is en route. She'll be with you in 2 minutes. James nodded, then turned to Marcus. Sir, you can take your items. There will be no delay. I'll personally escort you. Marcus picked up his bin. His hands touched the 2 metal pieces, his reminders. There was no triumph on his face, no pride, just sadness. Deep, weary sadness. Trevor still stood there, motionless. Ashley and Jared had left him, stepped back. Trevor was alone now, and the realization was crushing him. Marcus approached Trevor. The young man wanted to back away but couldn't. Marcus's voice was low, only loud enough for Trevor to hear. Son, Marcus said, you're not a bad person. You just haven't learned yet Your uniform gives you power, but that power is a responsibility to protect people, not to crush them. You disrespected me today, but I forgive you, because one day you'll grow old too, and then you'll understand. I hope you learn before that day comes." Tears formed in Trevor's eyes. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "I'm so sorry." Marcus nodded. Then he turned and walked with James Caldwell. The crowd parted. People began to applaud. Slow, respectful applause. Marcus bowed his head, acknowledged them, and passed quietly. 3 weeks later, Trevor Kane sat in a small coffee shop. He no longer worked at Dulles Airport. He hadn't resigned. He didn't have that kind of honor. But he'd voluntarily transferred to a different position. Less visible, less prestigious. The position he deserved. The door opened and Marcus Webb walked in. Trevor froze. His heart raced. Should he stand? Should he run? But Marcus had seen him, and he was smiling. A real, warm smile. "Mr. Webb." Trevor tried to stand. "Sit down, son." Marcus approached, sat in the opposite chair. "What a coincidence. You drink coffee here too." Trevor nodded, unable to find words. Marcus ordered his coffee, then looked at Trevor. "How are you?" I'm trying to be better." Trevor's voice trembled. "Every day I think about that day, what I did to you, and I'm trying to learn." Marcus nodded. "That's good. We make mistakes, but if we learn from them, we're not lost." There was silence. Then Trevor asked a bold question. "Those metal pieces, you said they were reminders. What are they really?" Marcus pulled the 2 small pieces from his pocket. He handed one to Trevor. Trevor took it carefully. "This," Marcus said, "is a piece of my aircraft's fuselage. The night we were shot down as I fell, I held on to this. It reminded me I was alive." Trevor looked at the metal piece. Irregular, sharp edges, a remnant of disaster. "The other piece," Marcus continued, "is from my co-pilot's dog tag. His name was Daniel Rivera. He was 24 years old. He died that night, but I never forgot him. I carry him with me every day, because he died in my place, and I owe him. I owe him remembrance." Tears streamed down Trevor's face. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." Marcus took back the metal piece, touched Trevor's shoulder. "I know, son. I know. And you're good. Keep going. Be better." Then Marcus took his coffee, stood up, and quietly left. Trevor sat there, tears running down his cheeks. But this time, they weren't tears of regret. They were tears of hope. Because if Marcus Webb could forgive him, maybe he could forgive himself. And maybe one day, he could teach that same lesson to others. Respect is earned. And heroes don't always wear uniforms. Marcus Webb's story reminds us of a powerful truth. Real heroes walk silently among us. They don't display their medals. They don't tell their stories. But the weight they carry is heavier than we could ever imagine. If this story moved you, take a few seconds, help stories like this reach more people. Share. Share with your family, friends, colleagues. Maybe they need to hear this lesson too. Maybe they'll encounter a Marcus Webb in their lives, and this time they'll show him the respect he deserves. Subscribe. Every week on our channel, we share stories of forgotten heroes, overlooked legends, and silent giants. In the next video, we'll discover the true identity of a hospital janitor. And trust me, that story will deeply move you too. And please, tell us in the comments, have you ever misjudged someone? Have you made assumptions based on someone's appearance, only to be shocked when you learned their true story? Share your experiences with us. Every comment helps spread this important lesson. Remember, respect is a choice you make every day, with every person. People like Marcus Webb earned that respect. We all owe them. See you in the next story. And please, treat everyone you meet today as if they might be a hero, because maybe they are.